Welcome to 40s and Free Agents with Daniel Jeremiah. I am Gregg Rosenthal, and after frankly carrying the show the last month or so, because the veterans are more interesting at this time of year, and that's especially true with the Combine set to start. It's draft season, it's cut season, it's rumors. I still think the veterans are more important, but this episode, we do a little preview of the Combine, and I'm going to school with the best in the business, Daniel Jeremiah. What's going on?
Greg, you ever get to that point where you're kind of away from your podcast for a while, like maybe you're traveling, you got other things going on, and your feed kind of piles up a little bit, and maybe it's your show that you listen to, and I've missed the last 2 or 3 episodes.
Yeah.
I just imagine that guy getting on the plane right now. He's going to travel. I need something to listen to, and he's like, "Ooh, 2 fresh 40s and free agents." Like, let's see. Oh, I got Greg talking about the free agents. And I've got, a Combine preview. So, I think we all know how that ends. And we like to welcome all those people to the show today.
We can see the numbers. We'll see which show does better. It's generally very consistent. But yeah, we were going to break this up and really make a meal, offense, defense. But let's do the whole thing in one show. I'm excited about this. And it's a great week where I'm just going to be watching you and Rich and Charles and everyone on television. But we're going to start going to school on these players, and we're going to start on the offensive side. And you can take it any way you want, but I'll give you a question right off the bat, which is there any QBs just from the pack of QBs that you're curious to look at?
I think the player, you can make a case has the most to gain through this Combine is Ty Simpson, the quarterback from Alabama. So, I have updated list that's out there now. My initial list, he was my 40th player. He's still around that range for me. I'm anxious to see how big he is. First of all, we don't have the measurements on him. So, is he 6'2"? Is he just over 6 foot? Like, we'll kind of get the measurements on him, how big he is. He played really well at the beginning of the year. And then some injuries, he had a bursa sac on his elbow. He had a back rib, situation. So his play kind of tailed off at the end of the year, including in the Rose Bowl, where he didn't play well against Indiana and got knocked out of the game. He's only started 15 games, but he's son of a coach. He's going to interview really well. He's going to be very, very smart. Processing is kind of his deal. But getting to see him throw live, as someone whose strength is really the processing, to see his actual strength, going through the drills, if he does elect to work out, I would imagine, I don't think we'll see Mendoza. So he'll have a chance to really help himself and get himself into that first round conversation. Now, there's a conspiracy theory amongst scouts that's out there, and so I'll bounce it off you, and I'll get off my list so I can see your reaction. See if you buy it. So there's rumors out there, and it makes a ton of sense seeing what some of these quarterbacks got, that Ty Simpson could have gotten anywhere from $5 to $6 million if he would have gone into the transfer portal. He's only started 15 games, which is not a lot. So you'd think, okay, well, why wouldn't you just take that $5 to $6 million and go into the transfer portal? And the rumors, and this is just all rumors with no, again, just take it for what it is that, well, the scouts think some team has got to him and said, come out. We will. We would take you in the first round. You'll be made whole. Don't worry about the money thing. We'll take you. So there's no hard evidence of any of this stuff. This is just a bunch of scouts talking on the phones, trying to figure out why he didn't go into the transfer portal and take the $5 to $6 million that would have been available to him. So that's the crazy rumor that's out there.
It is so funny that we have a situation where scouts are now questioning why a player doesn't stay in school because of the money, when it used to be flipped. And we see a player like Trinidad Chambliss just fighting tooth and nail to stay, partly, I'm sure, because of that money. I don't think you can hold it against him. If he does have some sort of hope or promise from a team, I wouldn't trust that team. But maybe
I wouldn't trust it either.
Right. But maybe it was the advisory committee that the NFL has, which I think would have been fair to project him as a late first. Is there a guy, though, that this happens every cycle? It doesn't seem like there's going to be any debate about the 1, so now it'll have to be about the 2. Of like, actually, he might be QB2, and maybe the Combine could be a place.
Are you looking for this year's Tom Savage, Greg? Where we go through like a 2-week news cycle of how somehow Tom Savage is going to be a first-round pick, and I don't know where it came from or how it got there, and then it ends up not even happening.
I would a couple games in the NFL. Malik Willis, at the day of the draft, I remember people were still thinking he might go.
Oh, I mean, I had him. I thought there was a good chance he could go up there in the top And who knows, after we see what he gets in free agency, maybe we'll rethink that, and maybe he should have and gone to the right place, and it could work out for him. But I'll, to me, the two guys that are interesting, you've got Garrett Nussmeier off to the side, LSU. He's a little undersized. His dad is the offensive coordinator of the Saints. We'll see. I saw him at the Senior Bowl. There's lots of tape on him. You can, everybody kind of has formed their opinion on him, and everybody feels like there's a good chance he goes somewhere on day 2. Most likely, most teams would say more third round than a second round type guy. So he's in his own thing. But then you've got the big stature guys who have, kind of the upside, who've had just kind of a winding road. Carson Beck, who was in the national championship with Miami, who, won a bunch of games at Georgia and just had some up and down moments, but is a big kid with a live arm and can move around a little bit. And then Drew Aller from Penn State, who's, if you would have gone back 2 years ago, that was kind of on that trajectory to be a first round pick. And then they've had, he got injured, missed most of this last year. Obviously, Penn State's season went down the tubes. But I think he's got a chance to interview well. He'll be big, and he'll have a live arm throwing it out there. So I think those two big guys will be kind of clumped together as we go through the process.
He feels like that guy. Maybe it's just because of name value. That at some point maybe has that cycle. And even then, it's like maybe sneak into the back of the first round or pass Ty Simpson. But the quarterbacks are ultimately like not the most interesting position at the combine. Are there running backs here that you're just like, you want to see how they run?
It's not a great running back group. I think there's two guys that kind of separate themselves up at the very top. They're both Notre Damers. Golden Domers, I guess I should say. But Jeremiah Love, who'll be a top 10 pick more than likely, he's got, watching him catch the ball, I don't know what he'll do at the combine, but he's legit 4.3 type speed. He's got unbelievable hands, runs routes, does all that stuff. So he's kind of up there by himself. And then his teammate Jadarian Price, a little more compact, traditional running back build. He can return kicks. He's got juice. So he would be that second guy, and then after him, Emmett Thompson from Nebraska would be next up, and he's someone I'm anxious to see. How he runs. Sorry, Emmett Johnson. Wrong last name here. Emmett Johnson from Nebraska. Getting a chance to see him. He's got a lot of juice. See how big he is. He's listed at 200 pounds. He doesn't look super big when you watch him on tape, but I think he'll run fast. Another guy who's going to blaze and run really fast in that group for me, right underneath him, is Mike Washington Jr. out of Arkansas, who gives you 228 pounds to go along with that speed. And you can see the speed when you're watching him. So those would be kind of some key guys to watch from the running back group. But there's one in the top 10. Jadarian Price has a chance to he could potentially get into the back of the first round. But I think he's a second round pick all day, every day. And then, you get to Johnson and Washington as real interesting guys.
But the thing about the combine is, there's every single guy invited, if they're smart about it, the guys at the back end, they're gonna be running. And so DJ's gotta have an angle. He's got to have a little nugget about each one when they come up, so the people like me can learn about these guys. Yeah. So how is the prep for that going? Your little one-liners, your little quips, your one joke that you're gonna have about each one of these guys, or not joke, but sometimes it's more of a serious angle.
Some of it just happens. Like DK Metcalf got up on the line, and I said he looks like the Batman suit, and that got a long runway there. That got a lot of plug. One of my favorite nuggets I had on a kid was Cam Jurgens, and I found out that he had his own beef jerky, and it was Cam Jerky, and we kind of had fun with that for the whole. That got us through a couple hours of that one. So you're a mixture of just kind of seeing what you see, hearing guys grunt, which is always evokes a Monica Seles reference from me, which probably is a little dated, but we stick to our guns on that one. And the other stuff is just I'll call around a bunch of college head coaches to give me nuggets on guys, different friends with college programs, and then actually even agents. Agents will have, this guy's brother was this, that, or the other, some of the stray random background crap I can throw out there.
I appreciate you keeping the Seles name out there.
Thank you.
In terms of the start to her career, maybe the greatest of all time. You can make the argument. As a tennis guy, I support it. Wait, you mentioned DK. So, who's going to be – maybe it's tough to be like DK, but the wide receiver that just
So
impresses you? There's so many. When I look at your top
yeah,
50 list, I think you have 11 or 10. You have 5 in the 40s, which is interesting, or maybe it was
yeah,
4 in
and
the 40s. So,
there's even more that are in that mix.
oh man.
Now it's a good group of receivers. There's a bunch of them. I will say that first of all, just know going in, there's an undersized receiver. He's down he'd be way down my list, but Brennan Thompson from Mississippi State, who's going to be 5'8" and change, maybe 170 something pounds. He's got a chance to break the record. Like, he can fly.
Ooh.
So
Okay.
he's going to be the horse that you're watching there. I'd say it's a small horse, but he's someone who can absolutely fly. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. On the receiver front, we'll see if Mekhi Lemon runs from USC. I love his game. Carnell Tate and Jordan Tyson, those are kind of the big three. Curious to see what those guys do. Denzel Boston's a big receiver from Washington. He's going to be 6'3", 210-ish, and he's going to run in probably the mid 4.4s. Casey Concepcion is going to fly from A&M, and I've kind of talked about him with Seattle if Shaheed were to leave, because you got somebody with return ability, had 2 punt return touchdowns, as well as some big time upside as a vertical player. So you got those types of guys. Deion Burks is someone I'm a little higher on than probably the rest of the league. He's going to fly. He's going to run really well, kind of a compact build out of Oklahoma, was a Purdue transfer. Zachariah Branch from Georgia, former USC receiver, he is going to fly. So we got some real speed dudes here. And then the question marks, the 2 Indiana kids, I'm curious to see what they run. I really like Omar Cooper Jr. He's a really good player. I'm just curious, is he a mid-high 4.4? Is he a mid 4.5? I don't know that it really matters, other than just curiosity, because one of the things I do during this time is my buddy Jack Andrade, researcher extraordinaire, before these position groups run, I have him pull the averages of the top 10 players based off production in the NFL the previous year. And there's a bunch of these top receivers who run in the 4.5s. So, I try and put some context on those numbers as they go.
Yeah, and you can now get the tracking data too from some of these guys, and that's helpful. Sometimes they play a little faster, in game.
Put pads on them and
they run. Are there any guys, and how much does it really matter in terms of just watching the fluidity, especially of the receivers? Because I would think this is a good spot to compare apples to apples, of just like how some of the guys, you're wondering how they move compared to others. Maybe they're big, fast, and beautiful, as you guys would say, but you want to see if they really can move as a receiver. Does that really make a difference? And is there anyone that stands out to you that you want to see like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's always guys who maybe run a limited route tree. They don't, run a lot of different routes. So you get a chance to see really the bigger guys. Can they get in and out of breaks? Can they work back downhill, back down the stem? Those are things you're looking at in the workout. I would say the group, which we'll get to, corners have the most riding on the actual movement stuff and the workout stuff, because a lot of the corners play kind of butt to the sideline and kind of shuffling, and you don't see them backpedal. You don't see them have to really open up. You don't see what their fluidity looks like with their hips. You can see it in a workout. So that group probably has the most on it. But in terms of a receiver going through things, like a Zachariah Branch is going to be fun to watch. At Georgia, it's just a lot of, quick hitters, bubbles, tunnel screens, and quick outs. Like, I want to see him really go through the full, route tree and see what he looks like, because he's super, super dynamic. Sometimes you can almost be too fast, where, you got to be able to kind of gear down. So he's one that I would say I'm interested to watch go through the workout.
Obviously, it's been a trend of less top players, doing the full workouts at the combine. So we don't know if Kenyon Sadiq, the tight end from Oregon, going to work out. But I got to imagine he would be a badass to watch.
He looks like Buzz Lightyear. Like, he just kind of just got that square jaw and a freaking just all muscles. He's got muscles on muscles. But I had a scout one time who said this guy has muscles in his poop in the draft room. I didn't know how to take that. It was very weird. But if somebody did, I would say it might be him. I'm curious to see him if he does, though, because he's a little bit tight and he had a lot of drops this year. So even seeing someone like that, just want to see him frame the ball, catch the ball well. But if he works out, he's going to jump out of the gym and he's going to fly. He can really run.
And it seems like it's a class where there's a lot of different offensive line opinions in general. You have a guard up at top yours, but then there's just a whole swath of tackles who could be anywhere in the first round. Does the combine actually make a big difference for separating these guys?
I wouldn't say a huge difference. Look, we'll see what the length is on some of them. I know there's nothing former offensive lineman that rallies former offensive linemen quite like the arm length discussion on social media. But I mean, I'm just telling you, it's been in the rooms and it's brought up and it matters to teams. So, that'll be interesting just to see the kind of the measurements on some of them. But
not to the Patriots, because I wanted them to take Armand Membu. I don't know what his arms are like, but
yeah,
he looked
I had
pretty
Membu
good.
as well. But we'll see how that all plays out. But I'm gonna, like, to me, if you're looking, what are you looking for in these offensive linemen? I would say the most important number potentially for them, this whole group, would be Caden Proctor's weight from Alabama, because he had started the season pretty heavy and then lost weight, played much better later on in the year when his weight came down. So, we've seen some offensive linemen who've had issues in the league where they, had weight issues and they couldn't control it. So he shows up in a good weight and moves around and runs well. He could really help himself.
Whenever an offensive lineman comes into the scouting combine overweight, or he suddenly looks much better and he that's always the moment where I'm like, it's a little weird what we all do here.
Yeah, no,
that this is making news, and
the body types
I start thinking about my life choices, that at least he's out there playing a sport, and this is just what he has to deal with. I'm just talking.
It's weird. I 100%, especially if you're foreign to like this sports environment. Right. From the outside, it does not have a great look to it. I readily admit that. But there's also the fact that these are multi-million-dollar investments that people are making in these bodies. But it is. I get it. I understand the people that get a little cringy by it.
More just like when it's like a headline and everything. Of course, you're all talking about it, but it's just like it's leading the broadcaster or leading like a podcast. All right, I'll let you fly on defense. What overall, like, big picture stands out to you from what
edge rusher
this week?
Edge rusher and corner. I think it's a really, really good group of edge rushers and corners, and there's a lot of guys clumped in together. So I think there's opportunities here. If you look at it historically, or look at it from this last year, I should say, with the numbers that Jack pulled for me, like the edge rushers the athleticism is almost a necessity there. Like, like the top 10 guys in sacks last year in edge rushers, I want to say they on average ran 4.55 and jumped like 37 inches. Like, this is a traits position. Like, you've got to have some juice and some explosiveness. So that can help separate some guys in. Like, there's Cassius Howell. This will be the roller coaster ride of the combine. Cassius Howell from Texas A&M is going to check in, and he's going to have probably 31-inch arms. He's going to have really short arms. He's not like Ruben Bain from Miami is going to have short arms. Ruben Bain's almost 280 pounds. He's 275 pounds. Cassius Howell is in the low 250s with really, really short arms, which teams, and talking to teams, it bothers them. Well, then I think there's a good chance he could crack 4.5 and run in the high 4.4s. And you're going to have the arms people and then the speed people. And you're going to look in those boxes at the combine, and you're going to see some discussion going on between the arms folks and the speed folks.
What are you?
I am a little more forgiving on the length for the defensive ends if they've got a special trait. So if you've got special power, you've got special speed, I think there's ways you can overcome that a little bit.
And look, last year's class was supposed to be incredible up front. It's not an easy position to adapt to. I think Abdul Carter is going to be great still.
Yeah, his pressure numbers were good.
Yeah, Jalen Walker is right on schedule. I think James Pierce was productive before. Now, who knows when and if he's going to play football again. And that was something maybe that caused him to fall in the draft. Yeah. But I think overall it was kind of a disappointing class. If you go into the depth, there wasn't a lot of production there or from defensive tackle. So you've been telling us these big guys are going to produce. You got to deliver. It's on you if
Hey, I tell you about the talent. The talent dictates where they get picked, and then it turns into a development thing. That's another podcast for us, by the way, is the baseballization of football personnel departments that's taking place, where they're starting to realize we need to invest more in development. Development's been a baseball thing, and football, it's been identification. And then now it's about development component, where you have the smart teams have a position coach, and then you could call it like almost like a caddy for every position coach, where I got to coach the guys to get ready to win the game. And then my assistant position coach has got to be working to develop the younger players that aren't getting all those opportunities, but they're getting better throughout the year.
That makes sense. And I think that was always part of Belichick's secret sauce was he was still trying to coach and teach fundamentals, I think. And you would always hear players that would come to that team. It's like, oh, they actually kind of coach us fundamentals instead of just assuming they're going to know what we're doing. Because, yeah, you don't see that development always at the pro level. I was curious, like, Jermon McCoy's coming off a torn ACL for Tennessee, and yet you've got him sky high. He could be one of, if not,
he could be the first. He could be the first corner to go. Not a surprise at all. I know teams that I've talked to that see him that way. And
so is that a big week for him to see where he's at?
Yeah, just where he is health wise. His tape is really, really good. So that'll be interesting to see. Mansour Delane, I don't know if he'll run or not, but I think the expectation is he's probably high 4.4s, not going to be like some crazy, low 4.3. Maybe he does, and that'll get rolling. But those are the top two corners for me. Then there's a little bit of a gap, and then I'm Cisse. I got to remember how to pronounce his name. I'll look at the pronunciation when I get to Indy. But the corner from South Carolina is supposed to absolutely fly, so he's going to run really, really well. I love. This is another debate we'll have and talking with Rich throughout the broadcast, but Keontae Scott from Miami is 25 years old. He's a great player. I love him. He's one of my favorite players I've watched this whole cycle. But we've got, Messidor, the edge rusher from Miami. And maybe there's a reason why these teams, are playing in the national championship game. He's 25 years old. Like they've got there's a lot of 24 and 25-year-olds in this draft. So when you're comparing, a Messidor, who I like better as a player than a Keldrick Falk from Auburn. Keldrick Falk's like 20 years old, 21 years old. So you've got a 4-year age difference. How do you factor that in as you're going through it? So, and if you look at recent history, not just the quarterbacks, because we could talk about Shuck and Bo Nix as being older, but Peyton Wilson came in as an older player, has been really, really good for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Craig Woodson was one of my favorites from last year's draft, 24 years old, I believe, who went to the Patriots and played great. So I think teams are a little more, a little less worried about that as they would have been maybe some years past. I
mean, Craig Woodson has to be one of the best day 3 picks from this last draft in terms of how he produced. Yeah, it's a ceiling floor debate, and it feels like front offices would do well to get players that can play. Yeah. And so the floor is higher for some of these older players, maybe that that they're going to be good. I think that the teams that have taken the older quarterbacks aren't feeling bad about it. I think they got Jaden and Bo Nix. At
the college level, I mean, that's that's what Cignetti has said. We've had him on our show, and he's talked about let everybody else deal with potential. I'm not dealing with potential. I want guys who are productive, like who've done it. And so it's the age-old question, right? It's you want the guy with the high floor or the high ceiling, and the production versus the potential.
Then again, the second the walls started caving in on Drake May and the playoffs went extremely south, the first thing I went to defensively was like, yeah, he's younger than Cam Ward. He's 2 years younger than when Burrow made it to his Super Bowl in his second year. And I do think if you're a Patriots fan or a believer in Drake May, that is a factor. Like, where is he going to be when he's 25 years old? So with someone like him or some of these prospects, hopefully you can get a little bit of both. What about Caleb Downs? Does he have a little something to prove?
I'm curious if he runs. I think he's a really, really good player, but I don't know. I don't get the sense when I watch him that he's somebody that's going to run in the 4.3s or low 4.4s. Like I'd be curious to see if he does run. I mean, he's a great player. Consistent, off the charts with the intangibles and stuff off the field, reliable, dependable. But I didn't think he was a freaky, traitsy guy. So and trust me, there's been times where I've thought that before, and guys have gone out there and absolutely blown it up and surprised me. So maybe he would, but I'd be curious to see what he actually does there.
Not a lot of premier defensive tackles necessarily.
Well, by the way, quick on the safety thing. Dylan Thieneman from Oregon, I think, is gonna run really well. And I really love Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, the safety from Toledo. I think those 3 safeties are excellent players. So I'm curious to see what he does as well. There'll be some guys that roll in this DB group. Do you want to talk about linebackers, Greg, since you deemed them the most important position in football on the last episode?
Well, I mean, I just want you to allow guys who look like elite linebacker prospects to even play linebacker. Like you're putting Arvell Reese on the edge or whatever. It seems like, he could be your LB1.
Yeah. And look, there'll be discussion about that. He played off the ball, played on the ball. We've seen that a lot with players over the last few years. I think he's most valuable off the edge. I said the same thing about Parsons when he came out. I've said the same thing about all these guys. Jalen Walker, like to me, I think that's where his value kicks in, just because I think he's got tons of upside off the edge. But we'll see how he's utilized once he gets picked. Sonny Styles is going to be a freak. He's way up there he's one of those ones, probably the distance between where I have him ranked on my list versus where I put him in mock drafts, maybe the most disparity. Just because I don't know how teams are going to value it. But he's going to be 6'4" and change. He's going to be close to 240 pounds. He's going to jump out of the gym. His basketball highlights, if you want to have some fun, go watch those. It's ridiculous how explosive he is. So he's going to be a fun one to watch work out. But it's a really good linebacker group. There's lots of depth. Again, day 2, second, third round group. It's really, really good.
I'm trying to think, has there ever been a case where like 2 linebackers from the same team? In this case, it'd be Styles and
what
Reese
about what was it? Who was with Simeon Rice and
that's
the other line? There was the other linebacker. It was in Illinois, right? They were in the same draft.
Well, Rice, more of an edge rusher, right? But
but the same type of a thing where you got those two front 7 players, and Reese does play off the edge some. So I swear there was 2 of them. Somebody's
Miles Jack and Eric Kendricks I came up with, but
okay. Miles Jack fell to the second round because of his knee. Kevin Hardy. Thank you, Gavin. Kevin Hardy and Simeon Rice. How about that? How about that poll right there?
Simeon Rice, just an all-time great.
Oh, you know what other one?
Wearer, yes.
What about the Miami guys with Vilma and DJ Williams? Were they in the same draft?
I kind of forgot about DJ Williams. That's a good call. Yeah, they played together. They played together. Miami was always stacking them up. There will be pro stuff, by the way, something to keep an eye on. Just some teams I'm just going to throw out that this week, fascinating. Eagles, they got everything is going on with the Eagles. Everything feels on the board. Who's going to retire? Who's not? What are the trades going to be? I just think they're going to be crazy. The Chiefs are going to be fascinating to see this week. I'm just throwing this out there. Your team, the Chargers, they got a lot of decisions on both lines, and they're like the best team that has way too much cap space. There's no point in having $85 million in cap space.
They got to do a lot to their own guys.
Yeah, most of it are bad teams right now, but the Chargers are a good team that has a lot of cap space. And then the Bears are kind of on the flip side where they have some tough decisions to make, but they're also intriguing. It's go time for them. I think it's go time for the 49ers too. They now have gotten out of their little cap jail and they're trying to win right now. So those are just some teams I'm saying to watch this week in terms of off the field, what's going on.
Can I give you one idea what we should probably do right now?
Sure.
Because we're recording this a little bit ahead of when you're listening to it.
Yeah.
So it's the NFL. Crazy stuff happens all the time. So let's just right now real quick so we can just insert this, okay? So you just go about how you're surprised you are. You can't believe what just happened. And we don't have to talk about it specifically, but then we're covered. Okay?
This is bad podcasting, DJ, because it's probably not going to happen. You go ahead. Because you don't want to point out that we're taking it ahead
I didn't see it coming. I didn't see it coming. I guess we shouldn't be surprised. It's it's a crazy league. It's a crazy league, and we'll see. I have my doubts about how this whole thing's going to work out, but we'll see how it all goes.
Oh, you're not even giving the take. I thought you were going to say something like, "I can't believe that AJ Brown is now a member of the 49ers or something like that."
It's just a professional move. You just have that in the can, drop that in, keep the episode alive. We don't have to record again. Keep the train moving.
This is where DJ's at. He's just phoning it in year. What is this year doing the NFL Network?
14th draft combine with the network here.
Yeah, a youngin. Although he's had that Move the Sticks Twitter handle for a long time. I can remember.
How many years have you been here, Greg?
I've been at the NFL for 13 years, but I've been covering the NFL for 22 or so now, 21.
How sad is it going to be when we go back and listen to this episode and then they've put in the song on the back end in the arms of the angels and they're just playing that over this whole conversation, and then it just says a little dash with our start and end dates.
I love a little gallows humor here on 40s and free agents. Hopefully we'll be back next week. No, I fully expect we will, and we'll be really cranking up just a week before free agency. Good luck with everything at the combine. I will be watching. Our listeners will be watching. This is the Super Bowl for Daniel Jeremiah.
Caleb on Chason and Patrick Queen as well. There you go.
Oh, that's a good one. First round pick, Caleb on Chason back in the day. Now got to go make some money in free agency. We'll see you next week.